There we go. Uncharted.
Have you ever played the Uncharted games,
I
Casey?
haven't played fully, but I have tried a couple of levels and stuff. So I know how the basic stuff works and what the characters are like. So that's about it.
Yeah,
But I know that it's kind of like a adventure treasure hunt type of game. Um, so yeah, that's
it's
all I
kind of
know.
like Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is like treasure,
Yeah.
you're looking for treasure and stuff like that. So I would say that like Indiana Jones is the cinematic version of that, like the most known, and Uncharted would probably be the most known on the game kind of
Mm-hmm.
community. And it's got a huge fan base, passionate fan base. I've never played the games; I've just seen kind of gameplay on YouTube. And I know a lot of fans wanted Nathan Fillion to play the character of Nathan Drake, because he does look like the character. And then when the casting of Tom Holland came out, people lost their shit because they were saying that's not their Nathan Drake. It doesn't look like him whatsoever. From a source material point of view, maybe you're right, but from a franchise business point of view, picking Nathan Fillion over Tom Holland isn't the smartest choice because Sony would love to have Uncharted be a franchise for the next 30 years. Like Indiana Jones is still going. Number five is coming out next year or in 2024 with Harrison Ford coming back. So they want a big franchise over this. So I had no problem ever with the casting. What was your reaction when they cast Tom Holland as Nathan Drake?
Well, I have no issues with that, but I certainly can understand why people are upset because in the games, they never started from a point where Nathan was younger. So I can see why a lot of people were like, why Tom Holland? He's so unlike the Nathan Drake we play with in the games, right? So I can see why people are upset, but if he's a good actor, he will pull it off. Plus, I think they just wanted to build a franchise here with like 5 or 7 movies. So
Yeah,
eventually he'll grow up and become that. If you start the movie from from the point where you already know what the character is, then there's no direction of growth
yeah,
there. So
yeah,
there's not interesting storytelling there to make a movie about. So you have to grow your character over the arc of the movies. So for that reason, also I feel like this was a good decision, and obviously Tom Holland is a great actor, so I don't see how that can go wrong, unless the script is terrible. I haven't seen the movie
yeah.
yet.
It kind of reminds me of Superman when people talk about Snyder's Superman because they wanted the Christopher Reeve one straight away instead of what they got. But Zach was building towards that perfect Superman that everyone knows. And like it's the same with the Uncharted games. You want to kind of build that foundation, that origin before you get to that character that you love through the games. But yeah, we have a few in the chat who played the games and have seen the movie. Taryn says Uncharted was decent to be fair. I've played the game so many times, and the film was did all right. So that's pretty cool. He enjoyed it. Rokan says it's Indiana Jones, but way more violent. Yes. Sienna has played the games and enjoyed them a lot. That's awesome. So yeah, I got to see Uncharted actually 10 days ago. It came out here a week early,
Oh, nice.
and like I went to go see the movie like with not my expectations weren't massive or anything. Like I'm not a fan of the games or anything, but I wanted to go see it because it was a new movie that was out. I'm a fan of Mark Wahlberg, so I never had problems with the casting. The trailers looked fine and stuff like that. I actually didn't know who directed the movie until it ended. Ruben Fleischer directed it. I'm a big fan of Ruben Fleischer of Zombieland and
Venom.
um, Venom as well. Yeah, and like I just never processed with me that he directed this movie until the very end, and then I knew like a good director was involved here because he's a very good director and he directed this very well. I would say that this is a fun movie. It's really enjoyable. I didn't take it too seriously. The pacing is very good. The interaction between Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland, the comedy there is brilliant at times. It's not over the top. It's not done in like a terrible way where it's trying to make you laugh. It's done in a very subtle way. The back and forth, the chemistry was pretty good. And I thought Tom Holland did fantastic. And when he first popped up on scene on the screen, all I got to see was like Spider-Man. Or there's Spider-Man just in a big franchise to trying to make money. But as the movie went on, he started to kind of morph into a different character, and I got to see him as Nathan Drake. And as someone who hasn't played the games, he is now my Nathan Drake. Because I've never played the games and I've only seen this movie. So I think he did an awesome job. And I really like Tom Holland as an actor because he could play the safe option and just do franchise movies. Spider-Man, Uncharted, something else, keep that rotation going. But he actually did Cherry with the Russo brothers, which isn't a great movie, but he's fantastic in it. And I like how he takes these risks and does these kind of darker scripts that you would expect him to do when he's in his 30s or 40s. He's actually doing them now while he's Spider-Man, the devil all the time. I really like that movie. I know you did as well. And he was brilliant in that. And I like how he's doing these like out there roles, but also doing these franchises as well. And he's pulling it off pretty well. The action is really enjoyable. In the trailers, they hyped up the plane sequence, and I was thinking when watching the trailers, oh, they're showing this a lot. Is this the only good thing from the movie? And they actually hyped it up because they knew how good it was. It's a really good scene, and there's actually a shot in it where you're actually from the perspective of Tom Holland's character and falling from the plane. That was really well done. It's like you're playing the game. And the third act has an awesome action sequence with I just said two pirate ships. And it's ridiculous. It makes no sense, but it's a lot of fun. And that goes on for about 10 or 15 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes. And it's just a ride, a thrill ride. And I tweeted out when I got to see the movie that this is the type of movie that will get an 80 to 90% score on Rotten Tomatoes from the audience. And it will get a rotten score from the critics. And right now, it's rotten from the critics, and it sits at 90% from the audience. So this reminds me of the Transformer trilogy with Michael Bay, or his 5 movies. The audiences really enjoyed them while the critics hated them. That's the movie. It seemed like, it just seemed like a good time at the movies, a good popcorn driven movie. And I would recommend this to average moviegoers. If I met somebody who wasn't big into movies and they were talking about movies or something like that, I would say go see Uncharted. It's a lot of fun. But I wouldn't recommend something like Matrix Resurrections, to an average moviegoer, because they probably wouldn't like it. But yeah, I thought it was good. Mark Wahlberg was fine, cool action, enjoyable, and I actually want to see more. I think this is the start of a franchise, and right now it's just crossing 150 million worldwide. It's yet to hit China, so it looks like this is the start. This is the foundation of a new franchise for Tom Holland and the Uncharted fan base. But the fan base seemed to be very annoyed at the movie because just a lot of gamers, the gamer community, aren't happy with it, because it's not the games, but it's very hard to replicate the games because they're games and this is a movie. So you can't make everybody happy. But it kind of reminds me of the Resident Evil movies as well, because what's the actor? Mila Djokovic? Is that
Yeah.
her name? The woman that was in them. Yeah, those movies had 7 or 8 movies. They did pretty well at the box office, but they weren't in line with the games. They weren't direct adaptations. And the gamers complained for years and years that it's not a direct adaptation. But the movies were doing well. People liked them. And then they made an adaptation. The recent one that came out, Resident Evil, Raccoon City, I watched it. I liked it. It was directly from the game, but it didn't do that well. So, the source material fans aren't the ones that always kind of dictate if it does well or not. It's the general audiences. So I would say go check out Uncharted. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. But if you're a diehard player of the game, you might not like it. Taryn says the guy that voiced Nathan Drake in the game, Nolan North, made a short cameo in the film too, which was cool. Yes, and if you're not a player of the game, you probably won't even know. You probably won't even notice. It's not a big thing to you. But yeah, he made a cameo, and it was actually a funny cameo, and it was actually cool to see him. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Uncharted. Into you.